On this week's episode, I'll be removing the rear cradle and changing a left rear suspension on a Tesla Model 3. I'm taking the lower shield and bumper valance off to gain access to the rear drive motor wiring, hoses, and fasteners. I'm removing both brake calipers and hanging them out of the way. Spring compressors are being installed on both rear springs before removing the rear strut bolts. The rear drive motor wiring is being disconnected. The rear sway bar and skid plate are now being removed. The drive motor hoses are being disconnected and plugged. The car is now lowered onto the support stand and lined up using the rear cradle jig. Once lined up, 3 safety straps are installed before removing the final cradle bolts. Now, with all the bolts removed, the cradle is removed from the vehicle. Time to remove our hub and knuckle assembly. The suspension links will now be replaced and installed with new fasteners. The lower control arm and strut will now be replaced, and the new pieces will be installed with new fasteners. The new knuckle and hub are now being installed. The vehicle is now being raised and the rear cradle is positioned back under the vehicle. Four new cradle bolts are being installed and torqued to spec. The safety straps are removed and the support stand is removed from under the vehicle. The electrical connectors are plugged back in. Both drive motor hoses are reconnected. The rear skid plate and rear sway bar are both reinstalled and torqued to spec. The car is now lowered with a jack placed under the lower control arm to help line up the strut assemblies. All the suspension fasteners are now torqued to spec and marked with a paint pen. The rear bumper valence and lower shield are reinstalled.